wrong in this exciting crochet journey. So this is what block number 1 looks like once it's finished. We will be starting down here, working the griddle stitch for section 1. Then we'll continue working section 2 with alpine stitches. Then we will work along the side here, working a faux cable stitch. And once that's finished, we'll work here to create section 4 with the front post rib. And then finally work along this side here for section 5 with the bead stitches. And then finally put 2 rounds of border around the whole thing. For the first section, we will create a texture called griddle stitch. It's basically a mix of single and double crochet stitches, which creates a nice uneven double-sided texture. Let's begin. So to start section 1, we will be working with this color C, and we'll start by putting a slip knot on our hook. So I have my hook here, and to do a slip knot, this is the way I do it. I'm just twisting the yarn like this, having the tail end over here, just making a little crossing here. And then I'll take the working end of the yarn and just pull it through that loop and pull it up and then tighten with the tail. So one more time. We have the tail over in this end. We make a loop like this where the yarn crosses here in the front. Then we'll take the working end of the yarn, pull it from the back through that loop, and then tighten. And now we have this slip knot that we can adjust. So we'll put that on our hook and we'll adjust it so it gets not too tight, but just comfortable here on our hook like this. Then, making sure that we're working with the working end of the yarn, we will be working chain stitches and we'll work a total of 17. So to do so, you wrap the working yarn around your hook and pull it through the loop on your hook. So that was our first chain stitch. Then we'll again wrap the yarn around our hook and pull it through the loop on our hook. And try to make those chain stitches about the same size and make sure they're not too tight. So again, wrap the yarn around your hook and pull it through. Wrap the yarn around your hook and pull it through. So now you can see I have 4 stitches so far and I'll work a total of 17. 5, 6. So I have my 17 chain stitches here now, and we will start working here in the second one from our hook. So not into that one, but into the second one. And you can either work here into that top loop of each stitch, working like this, and you will get this loop here at the base of each stitch to work into later on when we're working the border around our block. Or, as I prefer to do it, instead of working into that top loop, I'm twisting my chain band so that I see the back of it. And in the back of each stitch, I have this horizontal bar that I'm working into. So I'm sticking my hook through that bar and wrapping the yarn around my hook and pulling it through. And with 2 loops on my hook, I yarn over and go through both those 2 loops. So that's a single crochet stitch here now in the second. And next up in the pattern, it tells us to work a double crochet in the next one. So to work a double crochet, we yarn over once. Then I'm going into my next chain stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop. I now have 3 loops on my hook. I yarn over and go through the first 2, and then yarn over and go through the second 2. So you can see first I made a single and then a taller stitch here, a double. So next in the pattern we have brackets that shows us a repetition. that we will be repeating across, and that's to alternate working single and crochet and double crochet stitches. So in the next chain, we're working a single, so just go through the stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops. Then a double in the next, so yarn over and then go into your next chain stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. So that was 1 repetition. We'll repeat again. Single crochet in your next stitch, and then a double in your next. So yarn over before you go into the stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. So this is how we're going now to continue all the way across our chain band. Single in the next, and a double crochet in the next one. And I want to show you by working into that back bar of each chain, I'm getting this nice stitch here at the base of my first row that is easy to work into when we're working the border. But either way, like I said, you can work into this front loop or into this back loop, whatever you prefer. But just keep alternating your single and your double crochet stitches all the way across. Single crochet in the next chain. And we have 1 last stitch here now, and we'll end the row with the double crochet in the last chain. So yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. So this finishes our first row here. And now I'll turn around to the wrong side, and I'm ready to work row 2. So for row 2, we'll start here with the chain 1, and that stitch is just to turn our row. So when we start working now this row, we'll start with a single crochet here at the top of this first stitch, which is this double crochet we ended our last row with. So to work that single, you'll go into that stitch here in the top, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops on your hook. Then we have a single crochet here next, where we will work a double crochet. So we're alternating here now. We'll work a double in the singles and a single in the double. So to work a double, you'll now yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. Then we have a repetition, which says to work a single in the next double, and a double in the next single. A single in the next double, a double in the next single. So this is our repetition that we will keep repeating all the way across. And if you get lost somewhere along the way, I'm just going to want to take a closer look here now at our stitches so that you know where you're at. Here we have a double crochet stitch. You see how that looks like we have these different loop sections for the height of a double crochet stitch. And if I spread this stitch out, you can see how we have a single crochet stitch that is just 1 little round loop here. So when you come to a stitch, a double crochet stitch like this, you know it's time to put a single crochet in the top of it. And when you come to this little shorter stitch, a single crochet stitch, you'll put a double crochet into that stitch. So with these repetitions, you're going to create a texture that looks like this. Single in the next one, double in the next single, and then I have 2 more stitches here, and it's single in the next one and double in the last one. So that ends my row number 2, and this is the row that will keep repeating over and over, back and forth. So let's turn here now. So for row 3, we are repeating row 2, where we will chain 1, and then we will work a single here in the first double crochet stitch, and then we have a single stitch coming up where we will work a double crochet stitch. And then, like the brackets says for us to repeat here now, we'll work a single in the double, and we'll work a double in the single. So continue like this all the way across for this row and for all the next following rows until you reach the measures of 4 3/4, just like the pattern tells you. And you will then work your last row, and I'll meet you again at the end of our very last row. I'm nearing the end of the row here now, working half double crochet stitches in each of these last stitches here. So with this last one now, I have completed our section number 1. And before we fasten off, I'm going to measure to make sure that we are on track with the gauge. So I'm bringing my tape measure in. It's supposed to measure 5 by 5. So we have 5 inches in height, and we have 5 inches in width. So make sure that you are on track with the right gauge so that your piece measure just the same measure as mine, and then we can fasten off. So just cut the yarn, leaving enough tail for you to weave in later, and just pull the tail through that last loop and tighten. Next up, we will continue stitching on the same piece, working section 2. As we continue with the second texture on our first block, we will create a pretty all-over texture called alpine stitch. We'll still be working single and double crochet stitches, but some of the double crochet stitches are worked around the front of a post instead of at the top. It's really cool how one can create this rich texture only using the same types of stitches, just in a different way. Section 2 is going to be worked here along the upper edge of section 1, where we have 16 stitches that we'll work into. So we'll bring in color E, and we'll be joining here at the beginning of the row here on the right side. And we have those chain 2 that we started this last row with. So you'll go through the second chain and leave a tail here, and then put the yarn around your hook and pull it through like this. And then we will start with the chain 2. So we'll just chain 1 and we'll chain 2. Then we will be working half double crochet stitches here across, and instead of working in these top 2 loops at the top of each stitch, we'll be working into this horizontal bar here in the back. So each of these stitches has one of these bars behind it, and to work the first one, we will just wrap the yarn around our hook, and here is that first stitch to work into, and we'll just go into that back bar, yarn over and bring up a loop, and then yarn over and bring through all 3 loops on our hook for a half double crochet stitch. Now wrap the yarn around your hook, go into the bar of the next stitch here in the back, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops on your hook. One more, yarn over, find the next back bar, bring up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops on your hook. And here you can now see, by working in that bar in the back, we are leaving these top loops alone here in the front, which creates this nice looking ridge here that creates the transition between our different textures. So keep working like this all the way across, and I'll meet you again when we're nearing the end of the row. So I'm nearing the end here now, working my 15th and last and 16th half double crochet stitch. So now you can double count that, including those first chain 2 stitches, you should have a total of 16 stitches across at the end of row 1, and then we will turn to the wrong side. We're ready to work row 2. So to work row 2, we will be starting to work a chain 3. 1, 2, and 3, and that equals the height of a double crochet stitch. We will continue working double crochet stitches here across, and instead of working into the top 2 loops like we regular stitching do, we will be working into these horizontal bars in front of each stitch. So this bar belongs to the first stitch, so this is the bar we're going to start with here for our second stitch. So for a double crochet, we'll wrap the yarn around the hook and then go into that next one, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. Then yarn over for the next double crochet stitch, find that next horizontal bar, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. One more together. Yarn over, go into the next bar, bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. Before I continue, I'm just going to show you here now what it looks like on the right side as we're working into that back, the bar in the back here now. We'll create this ridge here in the front of our work with those loops that we are leaving alone. So now just continue like this all the way across, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. So I'm working here and getting close to the end of the row, and when you're here, make sure to also work into that back, that bar here that belongs to this last stitch. So it's located almost like a little bit after the stitch here when we're on the wrong side, but you'll work into it, and then you'll have those chain 2 at the beginning of the previous row, and in those we're also going to put a double crochet, and we're going to put it in the top of the second one. So find the second chain, go through it and bring up a loop, and then work a double crochet, bringing the loop through 2 and then through 2. So that finishes our row number 2, and we will have 16 double crochet stitches across. And then we'll turn, and we are ready to work row 3. So for row 3, we're going to start with the chain 2 here in the first stitch. Then we have a bracket telling us that we have a repetition that we will work across, and that is to start here now with the front post double crochet stitch. And to work it, we'll wrap the yarn around our hook. This is our next stitch. Here is the post of the stitch, and instead of working here at the top of the stitch, we're going to work around the post. So to do so, you'll go down here and around it and up here. Then wrap the working yarn around the hook and pull it through to the right side, and we now have 3 loops on our hook. We'll yarn over and go through the first 2 loops, yarn over and go through the second 2 loops. So you can see by working around the post here now, we're getting this raised stitch here. And then after that, we're going to work a double crochet in the next stitch. And make sure that you skip the stitch here now behind this one, the top of the stitch we worked around the post, so that you are working into this next stitch. So for a regular double crochet, you yarn over, go into the top of that stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and go through the last 2 loops. So this is our repetition within the brackets, and we'll keep repeating it across. So starting again, we'll yarn over, we'll go around the post of the next stitch, and then yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through first 2 loops, and yarn over and go through the next 2 loops. Then we'll yarn over, skip a stitch in the back, go into the top of the next one, and work a regular double crochet stitch. Yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. So there you can see our first 2 repetitions with alternating a front post double with a regular double, front post double, regular double. So we'll keep repeating this all the way across for this row, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. Front post double crochet around the next stitch here. I have 2 stitches left on my row. I'll yarn over and go into the next one and work a double crochet stitch. And then here at these beginning chain 3, I will work a half double crochet in the top of them. So yarn around your hook, find the 3rd chain and go through with your hook, yarn over and bring up a loop, and now yarn over and go through all those 3 loops on your hook. So here you have the end of row 3 with all these raised post stitches in every other stitch across. So now we'll turn to our wrong side and work row 4. And for row 4, we are starting with the chain 1, and then we're going to work a single crochet here in the same stitch, in the first stitch. So go into the stitch and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops. Then we'll keep working single crochets in each stitch across. So just go into the next stitch and into the next stitch and into the next one, and so on, all the way across until you reach the end of the row. And I'll meet you there. Single crochet in the next and single crochet in the last, and then we have this chain 2 at the beginning of previous row, and we'll go into the top, the second one, and bring up a loop, and then yarn over and go through both 2 loops on your hook. So that finishes row 4, and we'll turn around so that we can work row 5. And for row 5, we'll start again with a chain 2 for our first stitch, and then we have the repetition in the bracket where it tells us to work a double crochet here now in the next single crochet stitch. So we'll just work this double, going through 2 and going through 2. And then next we're going to work that front post double crochet around the next double crochet 2 rows below. So take a look at your next stitch and then go 1 row below that. We have this double crochet in between those 2 that we raised. So around this one is where we want to work our next front post double crochet stitch. So wrap the yarn around your hook, go down, under, and up around this stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, and then yarn over and go through the last 2. So you see here now again we're raising a stitch, and that was the end of our repetition. So we'll start again, and we'll first make sure that we skip this stitch behind it, and then we'll work a double crochet into the next one. So go in and bring up a loop, and then yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over, go through 2. Then we'll work another front post double crochet. So yarn around your hook, then find that next double crochet stitch, go down under and up again, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. So this is now our repetition for row 5, and you'll just keep working the same way until we reach the end of the row. And then we have one last single crochet stitch here where we will put a half double crochet stitch. So yarn over and go through all 3 loops on your hook. So this ends row 5, and we'll turn around to work row 6 here in the back. For row 6, we are going to repeat row 4, which is just a chain 1 and then a single crochet in the first one and each of all these stitches across. So go into the first stitch and then into the next one and into the next one, and so on, all the way here now across. And I'll meet you again at the end of the row. Single crochet in each of these last stitches. And then just like on row 4, we're ending with the single crochet here in the second of those 2 chains we had in the beginning of our previous row. So that finishes here now row 6, and I'll turn around so that I can work row 7 here on the right side. So for row 7, we'll be starting with the chain 2, and then we have our repetition, and that is to work a front post double crochet here now around this double crochet stitch below. So wrap the yarn around your hook, reach down so that you can go under and around and up again, and then yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. Then we'll make sure to skip the stitch behind it, and then work a double crochet into the next stitch. That's our repetition. We'll yarn over, work around the post of this double crochet below, bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. And then again, make sure to skip a stitch and work a double crochet into the next stitch. So here you can see how we're building this texture with those raised stitches here now, alternating when we're working these last 4 rows. So again, you're skipping this raised one, and then you'll work into the next double crochet stitch and work a front post around it, front post double crochet, skipping a stitch behind it, and a double crochet in the next one. So this is our repetition across, and just keep working the same way, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. Double crochet in the next one, and then a front post double crochet around the post here below. Go under and up, and yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. Then skip the stitch behind it, double crochet in the next one, and then we have a half double in the very last stitch. So yarn over and go through all your 3 loops. That finishes off row 7, and from here on we're just going to be repeating rows 4, 5, 6, and 7 over and over and over again in height. So do so and meet me again when you're nearing the measurement given in the pattern. I've been working back and forth here now following the pattern, and I'm now on a wrong side row number 4. I'm ending with a single crochet in top of the chain 2 at the beginning of the previous row, and I will now turn around to the right side, and as you can see, I'm about to reach my final measurement, so I'm going to stop here and take a look. So I'm bringing in my tape measure. This section is supposed to measure 9 inches in height and 5 inches in width. So we're all good and we can fasten off. So leave a tail, cut the yarn, bring the tail through your loop on your hook and tighten. And we have with that finished our section number 2. Coming up next, section 3, the cable band in the center of our block. Now that we have warmed up our hooks, we're ready for another pretty texture, the faux cable stitch. Later on in our journey, we will work real cables, but I wanted to start out easy. So for this section, we'll create a cable look with a somewhat easier technique. Join me and I'll show you. So for section 3, we're going to work here along the left side of our 2 previous pieces, and we'll work a total of 29 stitches here and 17 stitches here, so we'll end up with 46 stitches. I will start over here in this corner, and I'll be working with color A. So we'll join in the stitch here in the corner and just leave a tail and then bring the yarn through. I'll start the row with a chain 2, and then the pattern tells me to work a total of 28 stitches evenly here along the edge. And to make it a little bit easier for myself, I usually use my markers as a guide. So 28 stitches along this edge means that if I put a marker halfway, I can do 14 along each section. And again, if I do another marker here halfway through these sections, it means that I can pick up and work 7 stitches along each one of these shorter sections, because I have 4 little sections here now, and 4 times 7 is 28. So however you think it's easier, but we just want to make sure we space out these stitches evenly. And with the shorter section, it's easier to make sure I actually work 7 stitches and not more or less. So we'll work half double crochet stitches. So yarn around your hook, and then work around the edge stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops on your hook for the first one. And then I'll do a second one, and I'll go through all 3 loops. Then I'll go in here to make my third one. So I've made 3, I have 4 more to go. So I'll go in here and make my 4th, and then plan ahead thinking I'm doing my 5th, 6th, and 7. So 5 here, and then 6 there, and then my 7th there. So now I've worked 7 half double crochet stitches evenly here along the first section. Can remove that marker, and then I can work another 7 here along this section, and that helps me stay on track that I'm spreading out my 28 stitches evenly. So work like this all the way across, and I'll meet you again when we have picked up all our stitches. And 17. So I'm ending here now with the last one of them in the corner. So that's my stitch number 17 along this last section. So we have a total of 46 stitches across the whole piece. And we will now fasten off instead of turning our work. So I'm going to cut the yarn here and pull out the tail through my last loop, because we want to work also the next row on the right side to be able to create this nice looking ridge. So we are on the right side of our work still, and we will begin here at the beginning of the row again, bringing in a new piece of working yarn, and we're going to join at the top of these beginning chain 2. So go through the top chain, leave a tail, and then bring the yarn through the stitch. Then we'll start here in the first stitch with the chain 2 to create our first half double crochet stitch. Then we'll work half double crochet stitches here all the way across, and we'll be working into the back horizontal bars here of each stitch. So not into these 2 front loops, but in the back one. And we'll start working in the first one. So we'll wrap the yarn around our hook, find that back bar of the first stitch and go through it, yarn over and bring up a loop, and then yarn over and go through all 3 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, find the next horizontal bar in the back of the next stitch and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops on your hook. Then yarn over, tilt the work towards you and just find that next horizontal bar, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So this is how we'll be working half double crochet stitches all the way across here for our row 2. So work the row and meet me again at the end of the row. So I'm working my way here now towards the end of row 2 and putting a half double crochet also in the back bar of the last one. So this finishes row 2, and now we will turn to the wrong side for row 3. So for row 3, we're going to start with the chain 1, and then we will be working single crochets in these horizontal bars here in front of each stitch. So you see you have the 2 loops of the half double crochet stitches here, and then you have these longer horizontal bars in the back. So we'll start already in the first one, and we will work single crochet. So we just go underneath that bar, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops on your hook. And then skip this little vertical bar there and just make sure to go into the horizontal one of each stitch as you work single crochet. So I'm working like this here now into these horizontal bars, and what happens is that here on the right side you can see how this creates this nice ridge here in the front when we leave those 2 loops alone. So continue like this all the way across, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. We're almost at the end of the row, making sure to work in that last horizontal bar in front of the last stitch. And then when we reach those chain stitches here at the beginning of previous row, we'll put a single crochet also in top of those chain stitches. So that finishes row 3. You'll still have 46 stitches across, and then you'll turn and work row 4. So now on row 4, this is where we'll have fun and work the first cable stitches together. We'll start by chaining 3. So that's the height of a double crochet stitch. Then we'll skip the next stitch here and we'll work a double crochet in each of the next 3. So work a double and into the next one, a double, and then a third one. So this is what it looks like now with your skipped stitch there. So now you'll yarn over and then move your hook in front of those 3 stitches into the skipped stitch, like there, from the front to the back, and then just grab the working yarn with the hook and pull it through to the front again, and then pull it out tall. So you want it to be tall enough to go smoothly across these 3 stitches and reach the height here of where we have our hook. Then we'll yarn over and go through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and go through the second 2 loops. And there you have that first slanting stitch here that looks like a cable. So from here, we're going to go back to the start again at the beginning of the row and work another repetition. So it starts with skipping a stitch, so that's that one, and then work double crochet in each of the next 3. So we have our first one, and then yarn over and go into the next one, and then yarn over and go into the next one. So with that, we have worked another 3 double crochet stitches. So now again, we'll yarn over, reach in front of them to go into that skipped stitch, find it here in the back, and grab the working yarn and pull it through the stitch to the front and pull it out tall, and then yarn over and go through the first 2, and then yarn over and go through the second 2. So there we have our second repetition, and you'll just keep repeating this all the way across, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. I'm nearing the end of the row here now. I have one more repetition to make, so I'm skipping 1 and then working double crochet here into the next 3 stitches. So that's 2 and 3. And then I'll make a yarn over and I'll reach across into that skipped stitch and then bring up that loop tall, and then yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the last 2. So that ends my last repetition, and we have 1 stitch here at the end of the row, so we will just end putting a double crochet into that last single crochet stitch here. So just go into the stitch and then yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. So that ends our row 4, and we'll turn to work row 5. So here in the back, you can see how this stitch is also pretty here in the back. And we'll start row 5 with a chain 2. Then we'll work half double crochet in each stitch across. So the chain 2 came out of this first one. So we'll start working into the top of the next one, bringing up a loop, and then yarn over, going through all 3 loops. Yarn over, go into the next one, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops, and so on. So this is how you'll work row 5 all the way across, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. I'm getting close to the end of the row here, working my half double crochet stitches here now, also in this last one. And then I've reached those chain 3 here at the beginning of previous row. So you'll just yarn over and then go into the top of those 3 stitches and bring up a loop, and then yarn over and go through all your 3 loops. So this finishes off our row 5, and we'll turn around to the right side again and we are ready for our last row, number 6. So for row 6, we're starting with the chain 2 as our first half double crochet stitch, and then we'll be working half double crochets into the back loops here on the top of each stitch on the previous row. So we'll yarn over, and then this chain 2 comes out of this stitch, so we'll start in the next one and go into that back loop and just bring up a loop and then yarn over and go through all 3 loops. Yarn over into the next back loop and work our half double crochet stitch. So for this last row, we'll just work like this all the way across. So take your time and meet me again when you're nearing the end of the row. We're nearing the end of this last row, working half double crochet stitches here in each of these last one. And when you come to this last stitch here, this bar in the back here also belongs to this last stitch. So make sure to work into it. And then after that, we have those chain 2 at the beginning of our previous row where we will put our last half double crochet stitch. So go into the top of those 2 chains and then work your last half double crochet stitch. Before I fasten off, I'm going to go ahead and measure this section. It's supposed to be 2 inches wide, and it is, so we're all good. And I am now leaving a little bit of a tail and then just cutting the yarn and then pulling the tail through the loop on my hook to secure and tighten. Section 4 is up next. We'll be stitching a very useful rib texture. Now we'll work a texture that I have used a lot over the years, a one-sided rib. It's perfect for cuffs and hats and more, and of course also a great addition to this afghan. We have already worked front post stitches. Now we'll get to work back post stitches too, but still just half double and double crochet stitches. So section 4 will be worked along the first 17 stitches, and we'll be starting here in the corner. We will be working with color D, so grab this one and give yourself a little bit of tail. And then we have these chain 2 here at the beginning of this last row, and we'll join in the second one of those chain stitches. So just stick your hook through there and then wrap the yarn around your hook and pull it through. Then we'll start this row with a chain 2. So just chain 1 and chain 2. Now we're going to work double crochet stitches in the back bar of each of these next 16 stitches here. So the back bar, we're going to tilt our work over a little bit so you see the 2 loops of the stitch on top is up here, but then we have these bars horizontal here in the back. So that's where we want to work our double crochet stitches. So tilt your work a little bit towards you like this, and then yarn over for a double crochet stitch and start working in the next stitch here. Yarn over and pull up a loop, so you have 3 loops, and then yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the next 2. So that's our first double crochet stitch. Then we'll work another one, yarn over, go into that next horizontal bar and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. Yarn over, go into the next one, yarn over, go through 2 and go through 2. So as you can see now, by working into those back bar and leaving these loops alone here in the front, we're creating this nice looking ridge that will be the transition between the cable and this next section. So continue like this all the way across until you have reached the number of stitches in the pattern. So here at the end of our first row with the beginning chain stitches, we have a total of 17 double crochet stitches across, and then it's time for us to turn. So we'll turn here now over to the wrong side of work to work our row number 2. So for row 2, we're starting here with a chain 2 to give the height of the first half double crochet stitch. And then we have a repetition within the brackets. So that is to work a back post double crochet around the next stitch. So to do so, we'll wrap the yarn around our hook, and to work in the back of the post, we are going to flip our work over so that you see the post, then go down under it here in the back, like this. Wrap the yarn around your hook and pull it through so you have 3 loops on your hook. Then yarn over and go through the first 2, and yarn over and go through the second 2. So this is a back post double crochet, and if we take a look at the right side, you can see working around that post is going to raise the stitch here, seen on the right side. So for the repetition we're going to work next a half double crochet in the next stitch. So now make sure that the stitch here now, right behind where we worked the post stitch, you're going to skip that one. So that's not your next stitch, but this one, you can see this is your next stitch. So to work a half double, you wrap the yarn around the hook, go into the top of that stitch, yarn over and bring it through. You have 3 loops on your hook, you yarn over and you go through all those 3 loops. So this is our repetition that we'll keep repeating across. So again, back post, double crochet around the next stitch. So that will be this stitch here, and we'll yarn over first, then we'll turn over so that we see the stitch. We'll go down under it and up again. Then yarn over and bring up the loop. So we have 3 loops on our hook. We yarn over and we go through the first 2, and yarn over and go through the second 2. And that finishes the stitch. So we'll yarn over for the next half double crochet stitch, skip the stitch behind, and then work a half double in the next stitch. So we have now worked 2 repetitions, and this is how you will continue all the way across. I'll meet you again when you have reached the end of the row. Getting close here now to the end of row 2. So I have these 2 stitches left here where I'll work a back post double crochet around the next one. And then I have these chain 2 at the beginning of our first row where I will just work a half double crochet in the second one. So go through that second one, bring up a loop, and then yarn over and go through all 3 loops on your hook. So this finishes our row 2, where we're really going to see how that looks when we turn over to our right side. Because working around those posts here in the back, you can already see how we're raising these stitches here now on the front side doing so. So now we are ready to work row 3, and row 3 again starts with the chain 2 for the height of a half double crochet, and then we have the brackets giving us our repetition, and that is to work a front post stitch here around the next stitch. So for a front post double, we wrap the yarn around our hook, go under and up around that post, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, and yarn over and go through the second 2. So now you see how we keep raising this stitch here now, and you'll now skip the stitch behind it and work a half double crochet into the next stitch. So just work into the top of that next stitch and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Then repeat again, working a double crochet around the front post of the next stitch. Yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over, go through 2. Skip the stitch behind it and work a half double crochet in top of the next stitch. front post double crochet around the next one. And half double crochet in the next one. So there you have our repetitions a couple of times. So just keep repeating this across and meet me again at the end of the row. So I'm nearing the end here now of my row number 3, working a front post, skipping the stitch behind it, working a half double crochet in the next stitch. I have 2 more stitches here at the end of the row. So a front post double crochet around the next one. And then I have these chain 2 at the beginning of previous row where we're going to work a half double crochet in top of them. So go into the second one with your hook, bring up a loop, and then yarn over and go through all 3 loops on your hook. So that finishes row 3, and you can already now see how we are getting the effect of the rib. So for now, you're just going to continue these last 2 rows over and over and over again until you reach the measurement in the pattern, and I will meet you there. So I'm nearing the end here now of a right side row, working a front post stitch, and then I have my chain 2s where I put a half double crochet stitch. So for this texture, you can end on a right side row or a wrong side row, whatever you prefer, but you'll make sure to end when this section measures a total of 7 inches. So I'm going to bring in my tape measure and make sure I'm at the right measurements. So this section is supposed to measure 7 inches in height, and it does. And it's also measuring the 5 inches in width that it's supposed to do. So I'm good. And with that, I can fasten off. So just leave a tail, cut the yarn, and then pull the tail through this last loop on your hook and just tighten up things. So that finishes off our section 4 with the front post rib. We have one more texture to complete the first block, section 5, with its cute bead stitches. We have 29 stitches left to work along section 3. We will fill this last section with a background of single crochet stitches and then work bead stitches evenly spread out. There's a section at the top of the pattern explaining how to work a bead stitch, and I am happy to show you how it's done slowly. So for this next section, we'll be working along these 29 stitches here. We'll be using color B, and we will be starting here working in the back bars of each stitch, just like we did on the previous section. So just go into the stitch after the last one there and leave yourself a tail, and then wrap the yarn around the hook and pull it through. Then to secure, we'll start with a chain 1. Then we're going to work single crochet stitches. So we'll start already in the first stitch. So go into that same stitch and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops. Then continue working in the next back bar, yarn over and go through 2, and in the next one, and continue this way all the way across, and I'll meet you again when we're nearing the end of the row. So I'm nearing the end here now of these half double crochet stitches. I'm working single crochet also in the very last one. So that ends our first row, and you'll double count, making sure that you got your 29 single crochet stitches across. And then we can turn to wrong side, and we will work row 2. So for row 2, it's just going to be a row of single crochet in each stitch across. We'll start with the chain 1 and then work single crochet in the first one, in the next one, and the next one, and so on, all the way across. So work across and meet me again at the end of the row. I'm coming to the end of the row here now, making sure to work also in the last stitch. So we finished row 2, and now let's turn to the right side again. And now we are going to get to work row 3 with the bead stitches. So we'll start the row with chain 3 to give us the height of a double crochet stitch. Then we'll work double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So not the first one, we're starting here in the second one, and work a double crochet and a double crochet in the next one, and then a third one. And now we're going to work our first bead stitch. So you can read about it under special stitches, and this is how you do it. You'll see we have a bracket that gives us a repetition, which is to make a yarn over and then insert the hook around the post of this last double crochet stitch we made, and then make a yarn over and pull up the loop. Then repeat this a total of 3 times. So yarn over, around the same post, yarn over, and bring up a loop. Make sure everything is a little bit loose here. And then a third time yarn over, around the same post, and bring up a loop. So now you see we have 2, 4, 6, 7 loops on our hook, and we will yarn over and pull through the first 6 stitches. So go carefully as you go through the first 6. So you will be ending with 2 loops here on your hook, and then yarn over again and make this strand now a little bit long as you pull that yarn over through those 2 loops. So there you see we have our bead stitch here, and then we're going to skip that stitch now below it, that single crochet right underneath it, and then work a double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So yarn over and go into the next stitch and bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over, go through 2, and then into the next one. So let us work a bead stitch again here together. So to work the bead stitch, we will yarn over, go around the post, and bring up a loop. Yarn over again, go around the same post, and bring up a loop. Make sure you're loose, and then yarn over, and a third time you're bringing up a loop for a total here of 7 loops. Then yarn over and carefully move your way through, maybe stopping a little bit halfway if you want to, like this, making sure you stop before the last stitch, and then yarn over, make sure not to do it tight, and pull through those 2 last loops. Then yarn over for a double crochet stitch, making sure to skip the single crochet right after here, and work double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So that's 1. So there you have a second repetition, and you'll just keep working like this all the way across the row. So for row 4, we're just going to work single crochet stitches across. We'll start with a chain 1 and then put a single crochet in the first stitch, and then in the next one, and so on here, all the way across, working into each stitch. So continue like this, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. I'm at the end of row 4, and I'm working here now the final stitch in the top of those chain 3 at the beginning of previous row. So go through that 3rd chain and bring up a loop, yarn over, and go through both those 2 loops. So that ends row 4, and for row 5 and 6 we will just work single crochet in each stitch across. So work these next 2 rows and I'll meet you again at the end of row 6. And working a single crochet in the last stitch. So now let's turn around and take a look. I have finished row 6, which means that I have worked my first repetition here, which is rows 3, 4, 5, and 6. So continue repeating these last 4 rows until you reach the same height as the previous section 4, which is about 7 inches, and I'll meet you there. So I'm now at the end of the row here on the wrong side, ending row number 6 in pattern, and I have now come to the point where I will measure to have reached the final measurement. So before I fasten up, I'm just going to measure so that I have the correct measurements here. It's supposed to be 7 inches in height, which is the measure I have here. The block is supposed to measure 9 inches in width, which also is correct. So that means that I'm all good and I can fasten off. So leave a 15-inch long tail. So measure that you have enough for using it for whip stitching later on. And then just cut it and I pull it through that last stitch to secure. So now we have finished all our 5 sections. And next up, we will just be joining these 2 sections from the wrong side. All sections are finished, and coming up next is how to whip stitch and how to finalize the block with a nice border. Our 5 sections are completed. 5 favorite textures of mine. Before we put a border on this beautiful first block, we need to join the sides of section 4 and 5. So grab your tapestry needle and I'll show you how that's done. So I've turned my block here now to the wrong side and I will be seaming this opening together. So I'll be whip stitching and I'll be going through a stitch here on this side, like the edge stitch, and then through the top edge stitch here on the opposite side and just pull through, and then through the next stitch, same thing, pull through and just work your way into these edge stitches like this, making sure that everything stays nice and smooth here between the blocks, between the sections. Working into the edge stitches. The row ends of both these 2 sections. So continue like this all the way down to the bottom and I'll meet you there. Keep working like this all the way down here to the end of these blocks. So I'm down here now in the corner and I'm just gonna end here and tighten up things a little bit. You can tie a knot if you still have this tail here to just secure, and then of course just weave these tails in. And then if we now turn things over to the right side, you can see how it now looks all nice and clean and neat on this front side of the block. So to work the border, we are going to start here in the corner of our section 4, and then we will be working the corner stitch plus 15 stitches here along the side of section 4. Then we're going to work single crochet in each of the stitches here on section 5, and we will end with this corner stitch here in the last stitch. Then we will turn to work along this side and we will work 22 stitches here evenly spaced along the side of section 5. Then we'll work 6 stitches evenly here along section 3, our cable section. Then work a single crochet in each of these 15 stitches that we started with on our section 1. Then place a single in the last one. That will be the corner stitch here. Then we will work along this side, putting 15 stitches evenly spaced along here, along section 1. And then when we get to the transition here, we're working 28 single crochet stitches here along the side of section 2, placing a marker in the last stitch here to mark the corner, and then turn to work along this side here, working single crochet in each of these 15 stitches on section 2, then 6 stitches again here along the cable, and then 22 single crochets evenly along the side here of section 4, and then ending up in your first corner. So now let's start stitching up here in this corner. So I'm going to bring in our color A, and I'm going to join it in the very first stitch here in the corner. So I'm leaving a tail approximately 6 inches long, and then I'm pulling it through that corner stitch. Then I will chain 1 to lock everything in. Then I will place a single crochet in this same first stitch. So go into the same stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both those 2 loops on your hook. So this is our first corner stitch, and then we'll be working single crochet in each of these next 15 stitches along the side here. So we'll work just like this into each stitch. 1, 2. So continue just like this with 1 stitch in each stitch here, and just follow the pattern for the amount of stitches for each section. And I'll meet you again at the corner to show you how to work when you get to the corner. 27 and 28. And then I have 1 last stitch here that I will work 1 more single crochet stitch, but that's going to be my corner stitch. So once I worked it, I'm going to bring in a marker and just mark that stitch for our next round. And then I will just turn my piece around like this, and now continue working my 22 stitches here evenly along the side of section 5. So we'll just continue the same way here, working into the side stitches like this, and just making sure you spread your stitches out evenly, which means that you can, for example, for this section, knowing that you're going to work 22 stitches across, you can put a marker halfway, and then you know that you're going to put a total of 11 here and 11 there for a total of 22. So that's how I do it, to make sure to space out my stitches evenly. And when I come to the marker, if I have more or less stitches than 11, I'll just unravel and redo it until I get the correct number of stitches across here. And then continue the same way across. Remember to mark all your corner stitches. 21 and 22. So that now has taken me all the way to the corner. And to finalize this round, I'm going to join in this first stitch here at the beginning of the round. And I'm going through the 2 loops, the top of the stitch, and bringing out a loop, and then bringing it also through the loop on my hook. So that finishes off our round number 1. You will now have 1 single crochet in each of the 4 corners, and then 43 single crochet stitches along each side. So double count that you are all on track, and then you're ready to start working your second round of the border. So to work the second round of the border, we will start with a chain 2 to give us the height of a half double crochet stitch. Then we will be working in these back loops of each single crochet stitch as we continue around, and we'll be working half double crochet stitches. So to do so, we will wrap the yarn around our hook. We will put a stitch in the same stitch as we worked our chain stitches, and we'll go into the back loop of it. So just like that, and then yarn over and go through all the 3 loops on your hook. Then continue with half double in each of these back loops, just like that, working half doubles all the way. And I'll meet you again at the corner to show you how to work the corners. So I'm nearing the corner, working into each of these last ones before my marked corner stitch. And when we get to that one, we'll just remove the marker, and then in the corner stitch we will be working 3 half double crochet stitches into the same stitch. So work 1, and then a second one, and then a third one still into the same back loop, and there you have the 3 corner stitches, making the corner turn nice and smooth. And then from here we will just continue working our half double crochet stitches across to the next corner, and then work the same way there, and then continue all the way around. And I'll meet you again when we're nearing the end of the round. So we are nearing the end of this round, working now into each of these last single crochet stitches. So that was my last one, and then I have the chain 2 here that we started the round with, and I will finish putting in half double crochet into this same stitch as we started the chain 2, so that we get 3 half double crochets also in this corner. And then to end, I'm going to join in the second of my chain 2, going into the stitch like this, and then pull the yarn through the stitch and also through the loop on my hook. So that join finishes the border, and before I fasten off, I'm just going to make sure we have the right measurements. So the block is supposed to measure 15 by 15 across this direction, and it does, and it also measures 15 in this direction. If we flatten everything out here now, I'm right at 15. So with that, we know we're good to fasten off. So leave yourself a tail long enough to weave in, which is usually around 6 inches. So then pull the tail through that last loop and tighten. You may have worked around your tails all along, but take another look on the back of your piece to see if there are any remaining ones to weave in. I'll show you a trick I use to make sure they stay tucked away. If you were not able to work around your tail, or you just prefer not to, and cut your tail like this and have it hanging at the side, I'm going to show you how to weave it in. So I'm here on the right side of my work, and I will turn to the wrong side of my work, and I will put the tail on my yarn needle, and I will always, if I have a transition to another color, I will always weave in into the section of the same color. And here in the back, I will go following the row here in the stitches in the back, going underneath the stitches like this in one direction, and then pull it a little bit through like this so it's nice and even. Then here, being at the end, I'm going to skip that last one I went under and go back again in the opposite direction, just like we did with the previous tail, or just go back through the stitches like this and pull it through, and then stretch things out a little bit. And then if there's a little tail here left, just snip it off. And then that should be nice and secure. And as you can see here on the right side, it's completely invisible. I'm now going to show you the options you have when you are transitioning from one color to another. So say that you have worked your last row here in one color and we are to bring in a new color. You can either cut the tail here and then just start with this one and join following the pattern instruction. But I'm also telling you that you can work around your tail. So when I say that, you would still cut the yarn and then holding the yarn here. And this works in those cases when you're actually starting in the same stitch as you ended, so that you have the tail here at the beginning of your work. So then take the new color of yarn and pull it through. And then to work around this tail, you will simply line it up here at the top of your stitches that you are going to work into. And then when you work into these stitches, make sure to not only work into the stitch, but also around the tail. So you're bringing through the new color and finish your stitch. And then you can tighten here a little bit. And then I usually work at least 6 stitches. So especially if you're working a solid row here with single crochet or half double crochet or double crochet stitches, they will cover up perfectly. It's harder if you were to work a lace row where you are skipping stitches, because then you will see the tail. But here I'm just now demoing working single crochet stitches here across. And when I have worked a number of stitches here, I will just let go of the tail for now, and I can hold on to the working yarn again and then just keep working the rest of the row. And then once I have continued here, and let's take a look, you can see this tail now is just left here in the back. You can stretch out so it's just following along nicely. And at this point, you could either just cut it here, or I'm going to show you now, if you really want to make sure that it's safe and secure, before you cut it, you can put it on your yarn needle and then skip the last stitch you worked around, and then instead go into the next one and then just work your way back through the same stitches here and pull through. And now this strand has been going first in this direction and then in this direction back, and that really makes a secure fastening off here. So with that, you know how to work around your tail. Blocking is really easy, but an important step for a professional finish. In general, for yarn of natural fibers, I use spray blocking. I lay out my project flat on the tiled floor in my laundry room. I use a spray bottle filled with cold tap water and spray evenly until the entire piece is saturated. Then, check the size of the projects compared to measures given in the pattern. Then I wait for it to dry completely, which may take a while. Steam blocking is another option which I use on synthetic fibers. It can be done with a garment steamer or an iron on the steam setting. If using an iron on the steam setting, just be very careful not to touch the fabric with your iron or it will melt, and that's no good. Simply hover over the piece with the steam approximately a ½ inch above. As you're steaming, you'll notice that the fabric will become damp and begin to soften up a bit. Once your project seems to be damp all over, allow it to cool and dry entirely to complete the blocking process. With the beginning block, you may have learned multiple crochet stitches: chain, single, half double, double crochet, front and back post stitches, and even the bead stitch. We also know how to change colors now, as well as working into back bars. We're starting out strong, and I hope you have enjoyed this exciting beginning as we embark on our Irish Fields Gansey Crochet Afghan journey together. As we progress through these video tutorials, you will learn even more crochet textures, techniques, and combinations of stitches to create interesting fabrics and patterns. Not only will I do my very best to help you build your crochet skills, but at the end, you will also have a warm and cozy Afghan for your home. I look forward to seeing you in the next installment of the Irish Fields Gansey Crochet Afghan Club, where we will explore 5 new textures: the cluster texture, linen stitch, a basic cable, Suzette stitch, and last but not least, the waffle stitch. Until next time, happy crocheting!